share my view on Bitcoin. Well, we had this very long range here. We broke down from it. Then we had a very strong relief rally. However, we just ended up giving a bearish retest of the former range, and we also rejected by the value area low, as you can see here. And since then, we've took out the low that was yesterday and today, and this could potentially be our new range we are dealing with for a while. Here we had our first low and then we swept it, and right now we are pushing through that supply zone, which we already broke through. We had a 4-hour supply zone, and right now that is gone. So I'm pretty bullish for this week, and I think we have very good chances to that this low will hold. So I'm pretty bullish. Also, if we look at the value area, then we basically took out our range low. We failed to break lower, so I see this as a failed breakdown. And now we broke this supply zone. So this was supply, but it's now out of the way. And we are also accepting in our value area low. So that are all good signs. The only thing, at least the last confirmation for me, is that we basically still have to break structure, which is right here. But if we get a candle close above here, then I'm fairly confident that this is the low for the week, and that we then technically can make our move to the value area high around 92k and potentially back to the range highs. And that will be a pretty clean to have a new range here, because people all got overly bearish right here. So now it might be time to punish the bears for a while and then move up again. Just so that you know, man code J, your microphone is on. So if you don't want that we hear you, then you should mute your microphone. I have no idea if I can do it for you. No, I can't. Perfect. So what I was planning to do for tomorrow is to look for longs anywhere in this region, and I hoped that we stayed around here and then got in right here. But since we are pimping a bit already, I might have to change plans, because I might have to already start looking for longs in this region right here. Especially if we break structure above this green line, then I'm pretty confident that that we will push higher this week. Then, what is a nice confluence is if we look at the pivot zones. For the people that know it, I'm not sure how knowledgeable everyone in here is. I know some names, but not everyone. But this is the weekly pivot zones. So we know that, what happened there? That 80% of the P1s, so the first pivot of the week, happens in this greater box. And then 80% of the bullish weeks end up in that upper box, and 80% of the bearish week in that lower box. You always have your first pivot at the start of the day or in the start of the week. So oftentimes it's almost always Monday or Tuesday. Very rarely it's also on Wednesday, but basically then you form your high or low, and then the P2 happens after that. If we are now at Tuesday, so if we look at Monday, then we created, this was our weekly open, then we moved up, then we rejected from the P1 zone. So that could be a good P1. However, we also directly went down, and then on Monday and then early Tuesday, we also went to the P1 low. So at this point, both the high and the low could be a potential good low for the rest of the week. However, since we are now already have broken supply and it seems like we want to move higher, I am leaning more bullish for this week and think that this is our P1 for the week, which would mean that we can aim for a move into our P2 zone for the rest of the week. What could also happen is that this is still our P1, but I think that's a bit less likely because we are now already very close to it, and I think we will break it. So also because we are in the value area high, low acceptance, and we have a lot of liquidity above, I think we will move higher for the rest of the week. Tomorrow we have CPI, so that might give some volatility. And that's also where I will be looking for entries. So as said, I think looking for, let me erase that. Here we have some fresh demand created. Let's see if we have some, we also have like confluence of an MPOC right there. So my plan, at least for Bitcoin, is to aim for this low to hold because it's perfectly at our P1 zone for the week. And I therefore think we will move into our P2 zone. Then if we zoom in some more, this is some freshly created demand. Get rid of that for a moment. Let's see if we have, look, it's also, we have some, the weekly open and Monday's mid. I'm not a huge fan of those levels, but let's put it at here. So what I will do tomorrow is to see how we open, because I always like to have our time statistics align with it. What we currently have is that for today, our low, which I think is the low for the week, also was created at hour 0. So that's always a very good time to put in a low or a high for the day, because hour 0, like now we are already late in the day, but earlier today I also looked at it, and then we could look at our data right here and then see that it was actually a very good low. And now I also think that it will be the low for the rest of the week. So then this demand is the first level of interest I want to look at for entries tomorrow. What also could happen is that because we have a news event, that we oftentimes during news events we will aim for liquidity. So this low is an important liquidity level we then have, because a lot of people use these obvious lows as invalidations for their long. So if they are already long right now, a lot of people will use this low as their invalidation because they want to have a tight risk to reward. So for most people, this low is already too low, so they will use this. And then often during a news event, you get a quick move to either side, and then we can take this liquidity. So I might layer some bits tomorrow from here, and then also a bit here, and then might in between, and then hopefully to get filled. And then I think we will, we are ready for a relief bounce higher. So that's quickly my BTC view for the week. As said, what also can happen is that we reject here, and then this low is not safe. But in that case, if I don't get my long triggers, I'll just wait for a move in this. Let me zoom out. This was our former consolidation zone before we went to all-time highs. Then this was our range high, and here we have structure demand. So we went down, and then sellers took over. So this whole zone is basically very strong demand. So that's the next area I'm looking for if we don't hold. And that also aligns with the pivot zone low. So let's say, because the higher time frame, structure is still bearish. As we can see, we have been ranging here a long time, and we sold off aggressively and are now finally seeing some bids, but overall the structure is still down. Also on the 4 hour, unless we break above this green line, structure is still trending down. So we have to be a bit careful, because we can also just continue our trend down. But if we do that, then this zone 73k is our high time frame demand level, which also overlaps with our weekly P2 extreme level. So if we get a move into here, then I'm looking for longs as well. But my main idea is that we already have our weekly low, and that we will make a move to the higher part of the range. So that's the view for Bitcoin. Then now I want to quickly show you how I use the statistics, because every morning I basically always watch first Bitcoin, then I go to ETH and Bitcoin dominance. I'm not sure if, I think most people know it, but this is the USDT dominance chart, and that's basically kind of the inverted chart of crypto. So if this goes up, then crypto goes down, and if this goes down, then crypto goes up. So this was last year. Here we went down. That was when crypto rallied very hard, and lately we see that this went up, and that's when crypto went down. And it works extremely well. So if you haven't used it, I can advise to take a look at it. Very good confluence. But basically this is in a major range. We broke supply, are now above the mid-range. So this is the only thing why I'm still being a bit cautious. I'm bullishly optimistic for Bitcoin, as I just said, but I can't ignore that we are above the mid-range and that we have here very bullish structure, and we are now in demand. So we can easily form a higher low here and then continue the uptrend. So what I would like to see is that we invalidate this demand zone and then break structure and then are back below the mid-range. But that's a topic for later. So I always look at BTC, ETH, and then USDT dominance. And then always the first thing I do is to just look at when I start, where is our low and where is our high. And I'm only really interested if it is a low or high at hour 0 or hour 1, because those are the very strong pivots. And as today is a good example that you see that we have that low very early in the day, then we came up, and then if we align that with normal TA, so we swept the range low, came back in the range, then around 12 European time, then I know this is a pretty good low, then I'm looking for an entry. And today I just got front ran by a very tiny bit, which was unfortunate because here we had our P1, then we went up, so around 12, that's when I always look at the stats. Then I knew this low is good to hold. So I was looking for an entry, but what I don't like, or at least not liked, is this slow grind up, because this is basically all easy liquidity to take out. So I had bids right under that, because we also had an imbalance. So oftentimes this is just for market makers, very easy liquidity to take out and then push up from there. So I had my orders below this liquidity, and we perfectly tapped that level and then went up, but just not filled my bids. So that's a bit unfortunate, but good to see that the idea worked out. So I basically always look at the time statistics. Today it worked well again, and then I always look at the pivot zones for extra confluence. Now we have the weekly, so let me show you the daily. And that also today was quite of a nice confluence, because we started the day with a sell. This was the start of the day, then we sold off, and then we went up. So as we can see, we had our hour 0, so our P1, directly at the, let's erase this, directly at our pivot zone, P1 zone. And as we know, for some reason, these levels act as support and resistance. And here it acts as a nice support zone. So here we came up, and then I knew if we have P1 at hour 0 and we have confluence with the P1 pivot zone, then this low is very likely to hold. So that's why I was pretty confident that we could look for longs. And now it might turn out that this will be our weekly low, because that looks, let's see, if we zoom out again, oh, where is it? Yeah, there. It looks like a really good low to me on the weekly time frame. So I always look at the, just first my own TA, then quickly at the time statistics, see if we have a good low at P1, a good P1 at hour 0 or hour 1. And then after that, just look at the pivot zones if I have confluences. So first I look at daily. Then we saw we had a very good confluence with the daily P1 zone. And then I just make overall decisions on that around 12 o'clock or something like that. Yo, yep. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, we are doing fine. We have some viewers, so that's a good thing. And then I make the trading decisions, and I always look at the, let me show you. It was already loading, so I hope it will still load. But I have like a filtered version of some of the coins I'm keeping an eye on, because I tracked all the coins, but then I was too distracted by all the different colors and the different biases and stuff. So now I have just a list of coins I also do TA on, because I'm unable to do TA on every coin. So I have a few coins I always watch, and hopefully we can load the page. And there we go. Yeah, there we go. Right now it's late in the day, so usually at this time I don't look at the dashboard anymore because it's way too late, as we can see with this with the stats here. But like, these are the coins I always track. Then I just look at which coin is this very low, this is very high, and then I just start tracking them. So right now it's all very bad, but like the only one could be maybe ENA, so it might be fun to look at that quickly. ENA USDT. So then I just quickly scan what, I haven't charted this in a while, what are our P1 and P2. So here, for example, we have P1 at hour 1, so that's a pretty strong high. P2 hour 14, no, not too interesting. What are the pivot zones? We might not have that for ENA. Yeah, I'm not sure if we actually have the, so let's go back to ETH, because ETH was also very clean. As we know, quickly overview for ETH. ETH has been extremely weak, but we are reaching an important level. We just front ran weekly demand, so I would have loved to see us tap that level, but for the week and the day, ETH also looks pretty good to me. Let's see if we, here we have supply we need to break. But if we look at the time statistic, we also on ETH made a nice low at hour 0. And I think the pivot zones were also, the pivot zones were pretty tight. But for the time, I always like just P1 and P2. That's basically the only things. P1 at hour 1 or at hour 0 is basically the only thing I look at. And then, especially if that aligns with the pivot zone. So here we also see that we sold off directly, then came to the P1, P2 extreme zone, and then came back above it. Then we also left demand behind. So then I know if we come back, we likely defend that area as well. But for ETH, unless we start breaking back in the range, I can't become very bullish because the trend has been so aggressively down. So let's look at the weekly pivot zones. Yeah, then here it becomes a little bit, let's get rid of that supply. So for ETH, we also started the week here. Then we came up on Monday. So there we rejected from the P1 pivot zone. So this cooled already. be a weekly high. And if I look at it right here, that this looks already like a pretty good high, because we already entered the P2 zone to the extreme. So oftentimes when you enter the extreme zone of a P2, then you can get the bounce, but oftentimes you don't get to the other side. So it looks more heavy as compared to Bitcoin. So yeah, like I was pretty optimistic for BTC, I still am, but if I just look at ETH, it's almost too cursed of a coin. But yeah, normally I would say that this, because we formed it on Monday and a P1 extreme zone, that this high will hold for the rest of the week. And we already came to the extreme zone of the P2 zone. So this is also a level likely to hold. So I will not be surprised if we stay stuck between these two levels for the rest of the week on ETH. And as I said, what I would have loved to see is that we took out this low and then tapped that weekly demand. Let me see. I think nobody is almost talking about it. But this is like these two weekly candles. Here went down, and then we pushed up, left behind an imbalance. And this is basically the last untapped demand we have on the chart. And as we know, the market always likes to fill all the imbalances. So oftentimes, sooner or later, those levels always get filled. And ETH is now very, very close to fill that weekly candle. I'm not sure, like this is on Binance. It could be that, let me quickly look. It's, for example, already filled on Bybit. No, also not. Okay, so that could still be the case, that we take that wick and then push up. But overall, Bitcoin is still looking much stronger compared to ETH. Yeah, and ETH is also still below this supply. And this is a bit of a weird, this is not a good range, but like what I just said for Bitcoin is that we have this low, we already, at least we are close to breaking structure. We are back in the normal range, and we are also above the value area low. So especially if we have a 4-hour candle above here, then I'm pretty confident that this is our low and that we will make our way to the value area high. However, if we look at that for ETH, then there is no confirmation at all, because that last move down here was very aggressive. So here, to break structure, we need to break this high, which is quite a lot, quite far away. And we also have the supply zone above, and we also have the value area low here. So for ETH, the only bullish outcome I see is that it gets dragged up by Bitcoin pushing up. But beside that, it looks way less good. And I would love to see that low be taken. But yeah, basically that's how I use it. I always look quickly at the time statistics, and then I just look for confluences with my own TA for the pivot zones. And then you can find the levels and a bit of confidence, because without the time or the pivot zones, I would not be as confident that this is a potential low for the week as I am now. Right now, I think this is a very good chance that this is our weekly low already, that we form a higher low and then continue our way upwards. And then might be fun to look for some weekly coins, because on the daily none of the coins will give any signal, but on the weekly it might be that we see some. So in general, you always want this column to be as low as possible and this column to be as high as possible. And then your current retracement always to be around 0.5 or something, because too deep of a retracement shows weakness, and if it's too low, like CRV, then you basically are at the high and you never want to buy the high. So let's look at which coin has a low level here and a high level here and somewhat of a good retracement. Like AVEX could be potentially one. Yeah, that's $30, or INJ. INJ might be better. So INJ, we have 13%. So let me go to the chart and then explain a bit. Yeah, we can use the Bybit. So this is for the weekly. So let's get rid of that. So the weekly, yes. Now we see that we have our high on Monday, then we sold off. So right now, based on statistics, the Monday is more likely to hold. What I directly see is that we have supply, and then, so this is our high, this is our weekly low, and right now the statistics show us that, or I want, yeah, it doesn't matter, like 9% percentages with bigger distance. So it's unlikely for price to make this much of a downside and then take out this high. So that's always good to know. And then you want to look for weeks with more distance, and overall these are all very low, but that's because we already have a pretty bearish week, and that we can see if we look at the weekly pivot zones. There we have, yeah, like this could be the P1, but this could also still be the P1 in my opinion. If you spend a longer time in your P2 zone, then I would say this is high probability to hold. But right now I'm not too confident that this will play out, and it's also still Tuesday. So oftentimes I only start to look at the weekly statistics from Wednesday, because then they are a bit more reliable. But we can have a quick look at, like, if we look at the lower time frame, what are the stats? P1. Yeah, AVEX is not really a coin I like too much. So let's go back to BTC. Is there something you guys want to know or are interested in? Like maybe how I use the dashboard, or it can also be just my view on some coins. I have a few coins I'm looking at this week, which I think are pretty interesting. But basically what I already explained, I quickly look at the time statistics, then I quickly look at the pivot zones, and I'm mostly just a day trader. So like right now it's too late in the day for me to make good use of the statistics. I always do that before New York. But then I use the weekly pivot zones, for example, to now say that this low will hold. And my own strategy is mostly just around simple ranges. And then I'm looking for the low to be swept or the high to be swept. And then looking for deviations to occur. And then I always want to have a local market structure break. So what we have like on the 4 hour, and always high time frame goes above low time frame. So this basically from here we were trending down, and then these are the last candles up before we reach a new low. So this is for me always then your market structure level on the 4 hour. 4 hours is pretty good, but if we zoom in, we can, for example, on the 1 hour, if I just skip some levels, we still have this one, but then we went down, here came up, and then made this low. So on the 1 hour, you already broke your structure right here. So if you are aggressive, you could already get long here and then aim for higher. But since we are trending down pretty aggressively, I'd like to wait for the 4 hour to be broken. And then I always want to have confluence with my value area low. So right now the value area is not looking too good, because overall in a good range you have your value area looking like this, and then you have a well balanced range. Right now we this has weird spikes to all sides, so this is the start of a range, and you can also see that this is more like this. So therefore I think we it would be healthy if we go higher this week and then spend some time around the mid-range, chop around here for a while, and then we get a more well-balanced range. And then within ranges, I always also like to play ranges. Like the only thing I basically play are ranges. And then what I always like to see is that if the low or the high gets swept, if that happens on a good hour, like today was a perfect example. Here we swept our low, our former range low, on our 0, and we broke back. And here we actually had a 1 hour market structure break, so that would already be enough for me in this case, because we swept our low, we broke structure, and had a good low at our 0. So that was why I wanted to long, but I just not got filled, because I think my order was around here, just under that liquidity trail, and we just run it. So that was a bit unfortunate, but nothing to worry about. And those ranges I always like to play. So look for shorts here, look for longs here, and you can also in your range can also be a range formation, and then also just look for deviations. And that's why I don't like ETH that much, because we have not broken any structure compared to Bitcoin, not even 1 hour, or maybe one. No, not on the 1 hour. We are not in our value area low. We have not swept our range low, are not back in our former range. So ETH looks way worse. Look for Sol. It's not a good range at all, but at least it's already eating in the supply. And then here we could say the 4 hours more clear. Like here we went down, 2 candles up, down, seller stepping in with a imbalance. So then this is strong supply, but we can see that Solana is already nicely eating that supply zone. And this is our 4 hour market structure as well. And since it's already eating that supply is now gone. So this can be erased. On the 1 hour, what's left is this. But that's also being eaten right now. And since this supply is already eaten today, that means that it's basically gone. So then price could move easy tomorrow. But as I said, this is not a good range at all, because you can always use your volume profile tool to look if your range is healthy or not. And here you also see that like you have that point of control, but this is way too imbalanced. You want to have way more price action here and also here to get that more healthy looking range, which we might, like Sui is one I'm keeping a very close eye on, but it's basically for all the same. It's not yet back in the former range, which was first here, now it's here. This is already mitigated. So we don't have a confirmation yet, but if currently we are eating that supply, and also here our market structure is right above it, then if we push here, then I see this as a range deviation, and then I basically target the opposite side of the range, and at least the mid-range. And we can see how the volume profile is looking for this one. Yeah, that's up there. Then let's look at the pivot zones, how they are looking. I have no idea why it's not showing. Oh, there's no weekly data. That could be the case here. But what we have on by, I think Sui is so interesting is because we have a lot of liquidity resting there and even more locally. And I think this is also right here. All this liquidity. This is weekend liquidity here. So I think once we break above this green level, then we will quickly move to this level. And then from there on, you basically only have liquidity. So no strong supply zones. And we had a supply here, but we already mitigated that. So that's not worth a lot anymore. And where was our failure area low? Yeah, like this is also our failure area low and the point of control. So once that is flipped, then Sui could be a pretty good contender for a nice move higher, because it left all this liquidity behind, like this. So if this breaks above, then this supply zone also flips into demand. So then you have like a supply to demand flip. And then I'm looking for any higher lows to be formed, with this being the deviation and the weekly low. Ripple is yeah, not too interesting to me. I have this green line that's like my because we swept liquidity here with a nice wick. That's pretty good. And if we break market structure, then I'm looking for a higher low, and then could take some longs. But there are way better coins to trade. I haven't looked at too many coins, but I know that Pepe, nobody looks at it anymore because it's down 80% from the highs, which is crazy. But we took out a major low, which is basically the, I'm not sure if we have much below this. No, basically all liquidity, because this was all liquidity I was looking at, and that is taken out. So this might be time for a nice, or at least some form of a relief rally. Also because we here have a lot of liquidity, but it will be, of course, all dependent on what Bitcoin does. but also here we, like this is the level where all liquidity got taken. Price came up, made a new low, and therefore this is your 4-hour market structure. If you break that 4-hour market structure, then you can technically expect a higher low for a higher high. I don't think it is. But yeah, as I said, I like to trade ranges, and this is all but a range. This is more downtrending. So I'm looking more for the coins that have a bit more sideways price action, like Sui. Sol could give that deviation, but mostly interested in BTC longs, because we have the confluence with the time statistics, with the pivot zones, very good low. And this one is back in the former range, reclaiming the value area low, almost breaking, or at least we already broke 1-hour structure. We are very close to 4-hour structure. So for BTC, I'm very interested in longs, and therefore alts will also probably follow up. But yeah, Bitcoin is just the king right now. So tomorrow we have CPI. Let me quickly look if we have. Yeah, like on the 6-hour, depends how the next candle closes, of course, but 4 hours to go. But here we can see that we are creating fresh demand. Then on the that's the same as in the 4-hour. So here you have sellers and then buyers took over, and right now we have an imbalance. So this is new created demand on the so plan for tomorrow is to look for longs, and then basically it could be a swing trade for the week, because as I said, I think this is our weekly low, and then we can basically aim for the P2 zone, so a minimum of here, and then technically a maximum of here, but I would not be surprised if we exceed it a little bit, because we have that liquidity above. So more or less the 90k zone. So let's see what let's say we enter here. Stop is that weekly low. Target is the P2 zone. Still a 2R. So that's not too bad. Yeah, that's basically the plan. Look for longs tomorrow. The closer down here, the better the risk to reward will be, of course. But we have CPI, but I have no idea how the CPI, if it will be some form of a volatile one, or that the expectations are already in line with what's going to happen. But overall, I would say look for longs on BTC, and then only for good alts that are looking good. But yeah, as we can see, BTC looks much better than most altcoins, because most altcoins have not reclaimed anything, while Bitcoin is clearly in a new range. So that's basically it. I see that some new people have joined. Also, Mark, good to see you, brother. And if nobody has... Oh, I see a question. Could you take a look at Aave? Sure. So basically what I always do is to start at the high time frame, so at the 3-day, and then I'm looking at first of all the structure, and then also supply and demand zones. So what we kind of... Aave is technically on the 3-day still bullish, because if we skip just some points. Then this is our uptrend. And then here we have 3 candles going down and then a high. But between this, we don't have any pullbacks. So you could say that on the 3-day, the market structure is still up, as long as price is above, closes a 3-day candle above this green line. So that's a very good thing of AVE, because it's one of the few coins which has a higher time frame bullish structure. And then I'm looking for local levels. Like here we had these 2 candles are the last buy candles before an aggressive sell-off, so that's supply. But we see that price perfectly tapped into that, so that's more or less out of the way already. Then we have a very strong one here. No worries, Mark. I'll be streaming more this week as well. And then I'm looking for ranges. So is there, if I just quickly look at it from this, it's not a clean range. Here it's also not too clean. It might be that we locally have something to work with. Like this. This could be the range, and that will be pretty, like we know that our 3-day structure is here, so we want to close, or at least form this is the last point you can form your higher low. It's very deep, but it can still happen, or at least give a good bounce. So this is an area we want to look for triggers where that could happen. So here we have, this could be our local range. We swept the low with a tiny bit. Like here are trending down, then you had a fake break, made a new low. So here technically this is your break structure, or do we have on the one? Yeah, here. Now I'm just thinking out loud how I would play it if there is a play. So the weekly pivot is first pushed up, rejected, but nothing too clear. I see that Assassin. Thanks, great to hear that. This is also the last coin, and then okay, let me quickly complete my TA on AVE, and then I answer a new question. Yeah, for AVE, I'm not really like we swept the low. We could, here we have some fresh demand. But since your market structure is here, I would not, right now I would not see anything. Might keep an eye on it, because we have R1, R2, so it could form a higher low here and then push up. But unless you break this structure, you're basically just trending down. And you are in a massive downtrend. So if you want to go long, you have to have really clean triggers. Because basically, for now, until proven otherwise, everything is pointing for lower. So then I go, can you explain us how do you navigate through Minoma? I understand that what is of interest to you are market structures, price action, ranges, etc. But what is the most relevant data for you to operate in your strategies? Yeah, basically, so the, let me go back to Bitcoin. Basically the time, so I'm mostly a day trader, so I scalp a lot. And then I look at, for today, where is the P1 and where's the P2? Right now I know just P1, if it is around hour 0 or hour 1, then it's very strong. Then I don't even have to look at the data anymore. But I can give you an example. Then I go to time. Here look at asset BTC. Then filter mode, time adjusted. And I go to the daily. Filter mode, time adjusted, because then it calculates the hours that are already gone, so it doesn't take it into account anymore. And then right now, because we are already late in the day, it will show a 99.5% chance that the P1 will hold, which is of course very likely. And then current high is at hour 19. So we see that there's still probability that in the next hours we will make a new high. But I don't really calculate that. What I mostly do is to just use the pivot zones. Like here we have now the weekly, but on a daily. Look at the levels, then I know, okay, for the day we are most likely already at the extreme. So this is not an area I want to look for longs. Then I know, okay, tomorrow I might want to look for longs and then get in. And as I said, the overview page. So here we have the summary page. That might also be a good one to share. Like here we can see the coins I keep an eye on. And then it quickly shows me a overview for the weekly, the daily and the lower time frames, a bias. I don't know why it's so slow, but like here. So that I get a quick overview. Right now it shows exhausted bull for the day, the session and the hour, 4 hour and low time frames. And the current week is mostly exhausted bear. So right now I quickly see this is not an area you want to look for longs because everything is already exhausted. But when you are trending, sometimes it's all red, or when it's bullish, it's all in the green. And then you know those are the coins I want to look for. Or for example, now I see that only one coin is standing out with a weekly bullish bias is CRV. I already know CRV is one of the coins I'm keeping an eye on. And then here, which I also showed, are also the coins I'm keeping an eye on. And then here we see the time statistics for them, and here the distance statistics. But because we are already late in the day, it's not worth looking at it right now. But before New York, you can see the coins here, and then you basically want to look for the coins with a low percentage here, very high percentage here. And then I know which coins to look at. Because oftentimes you have so many coins that you can't just chart them all because it takes quite some time to do good charting. And then you can't watch everything. But here you see which coins are statistically the most interesting ones. And that will also be the ones I first check out. So if this is very low and this is very high, then I will look at that coin and chart it. And then I go coin by coin, and that way I can sort of filter my my watch list. I know it's been asked, but I can't remember when is hour 0. Are you for real now, Mark, or? Hour 0 is maybe you are because of your time zone. So hour 0 is always UTC, and I think they changed. I think London changed their time zones again. So for me, it's now also a bit different. But it's basically the first trading hour of the UTC 0 session. So right now it's 8 UTC. Yeah, I live UTC plus 1. So in 4 hours, the next hour 0 will be printed again, right here. And that will be important because if it starts like this, then it could already be a good higher low, for example. Hour 0 and hour 1 is always the best ones to keep an eye on. Yeah, 0 UTC. So like it's now 20 UTC. So in 4 hours, and then like the 5th hour. Because if I can show you guys it also quickly. If I don't do it on time adjusted but on normal, you can see how powerful the hour 0 and 1 are. And my time zone is not optimal for that. But if you are awake during those times, then you can see that in a percentage, 40 plus 40% of the daily highs and lows get put in at hour 0 or 1. And then hour 2 is 7.4%, and then it drastically declines, and it's nothing. So like this is London session. So London session almost never puts in a high or low for the day. Hour 0 and 1 have a combined total of 40% to put in the P1, so the daily high or the low. That's extremely high. It's almost crazy. So if you always are behind your screen, like almost like in 40% of the cases, you can spot the high or the low for the day. And then till hour hour 14 UTC, then the P2 increases again. So here we see 7%, 7%, 8%. So basically the first 2 hours are very important to put in a high or low. And then from hour 14, so that's basically when the New York Open starts, that's when the P2 gets printed often. And basically anything between that, so the whole London session is almost always only internal price action. So not a daily high or low, but a high or low that gets taken out later in the day. So a mistake I made when I started was that I was so eager to trade that I was watching the chart the whole day. Then I woke up at 7, I was behind my screen at 8, and I was watching the charts from 8 till 2 p.m. and I was totally fried. I was looking at a trade constantly and getting emotional and stuff like that. While that was all very shitty price action because it didn't make it a high or low. And then when the real action started in New York, that was when I was already done because I already had lost a trade or my mental energy was gone. So now I know in the morning I make my TA, make some plans. Then I go to the gym, read a book, do some other stuff. And then in New York, then I'm get active with trading because everything between that, the London session, is almost always just choppy price action. And that's what we saw today as well. Like here we created the low, So this was our 0, our 1, and then we push up. And then, yeah, this is London price action. So this is, you can't do anything with this. And then here, this is when New York started. So then we took out that high, moved down, took all liquidity, went up. And then you can see that basically this is the London session, this part of price action, and both the high and the low gets taken out during the New York session. So yeah, what I was doing in the past was trading this price action, and then if I was long, I got stopped out here, and if I was short, I got stopped out at the start. So now I just know it's almost always better to make plans. Sometimes it can give an entry, but then you should not use a high or low from that session as your invalidation. Like you should not use the London low as an invalidation, because that almost always gets taken out. But you can use the Asia low. And just overall data like that helped me tremendously.